YouTube? Quinn Wade coming to y'all with that rundown analysis. We're going to talk about every single team in the league and where they're at this point of the season since it's a new month of the year. And we're basically almost done with the season. So only one more rundown, most likely. So enjoy this one for what it is. The Pistons. I've been saying this for a while. Is the number one team in the East, and they also the number one team in the NBA by win percentage. And that's something that a lot of us didn't see coming into this year, but that's all we've been seeing for this year is them winning basketball games and not losing much this year. Detroit, 44 wins, 14 losses, 75 win percentage. Um, they're 23-7 at home, 20-7 on the road, 10-3 in the division, 29-7 in the conference. They have a 2-game win streak. They're 8-2 in their last 10. Their defense has been really, really good. You know, Cade has been running that offense at a high level. Jalen Duren has just been a beast in that paint on both ends of the court. Asor Thompson is playmaking and scoring. Tobias is hitting fadeaways, jump shots, pull-ups. Duncan Robinson is splashing in them threes. And it's just been a whole team effort from the Detroit Pistons. And you just have to love the fact that they compete and play hard the entire game. And they're going to keep testing you on both ends of the courts and seeing if you really can do it for 48 minutes. And if you don't, they'll beat you. And that's what the best teams do. They capitalize off your mistakes. They make you work for everything. They make it extremely difficult to win. And if you're not all in and you're not focused, you're not going to win those games against these type of teams. And the Pistons, they went from being one of the worst to one of the best very quickly. And you have to give Cade a lot of credit for being available and also being dominant for majority of the season. And the progress Jalen Duren has made as a player too, just really just took them to another level this year. And it's just fun and good to see them be successful as much as they have been because they are a fun team to watch. Boston Celtics, as of right now, they're number 2 in the East, 39-20, 66 win percentage. They're 5.5 games behind the Pistons, which is a significant amount. They're 19-9 at home, 20-11 on the road, 8-5 on the conference, 25-13. Well, 8-5 in the division, 25-13 in the conference. They won their last game, and they're also 8-2 in their last 10. They're defending. Their offense is still really good. Even without Tatum, Brown has been one of the most dominant players this season. The role players know where they need to be at on the court. They know how to make their own shot. They know how to move the ball. They have had some new additions to the team like Vucevic, who gives them an inside post-up threat and a guy that can space the floor and set screens and give dribble handoff opportunities to players that only need a little bit of space to get their shots off. And you just look at the Soldiers, there's not much they can't do. You know, they're a really all-around good team. They're a well-balanced crew. They all love each other. They all respect each other. They love playing with each other. Mazzulla loves coaching the team. And he's just a guy that's a tacticianer out there. He's always trying to find a way to push his team and get them in the best situations possible to succeed. And that's what a coach is supposed to do. And he's been doing that all year. The New York Knicks is number 3. They still have had a good season, 38-22, 63 win percentage. They 7 games behind the Pistons for number 1, 22-8 at home, 15-14 on the road, 10-3 in the division, 26-15 in the conference. They won their last game, but they're 6-4 in their last 10. They've been a team that has a really good record, but you feel like you can beat them when you go against them, but they're not going to just let it come easy most of the time. You know, Brunson is a fighter. He's going to bang and come at you throughout the entire game and put his body on the line and do whatever is needed for him and his teammates to succeed. Towns is an outside threat that can also take it inside and also post up from time to time and kill you on the boards, just like Mitch Robinson. He can do it too. And then you just have good shooters and good scorers around them and solid defenders that can just make things a little annoying, to be able to deal with them. But the Knicks have been really good when it comes to beating everybody else. They have been good, this season, but they just don't look like a team that's really at the top of the championship type of contender teams. They in there record wise, but just play wise, they haven't been dominant. They haven't really been proven enough this season that they can get it done at the NBA Finals level. If they got to the conference finals, I wouldn't be surprised. If they got to the finals, I would be surprised. And I don't see them winning the championship based off how they've been playing against the better teams. But at the same time, you never know what happens. And they do have enough talent and a good enough coach to get there. But their season has really still been good, and you just have to give them credit for going out there and beating up on the teams that they're supposed to beat too. And that's part of the regular season, and they have been able to get that done. Cleveland, their record look a whole lot better now. They're fourth in the East, 37-24, 60 win percentage. They're 8.5 games back from Detroit for number one. 20-11 at home, 17-13 on the road, 7-5 in the division, 23-15 in the conference. They lost their last two games. They're 7-3 still in their last 10, which is really good. James Harden is the new addition. He does actually work with Donovan Mitchell. They have a lot of bigs that can finish at the rim and space the floor, and they have one good rim runner, and he's been virtually unguardable. Even he's starting to take mid-range jumpers, and he's knocking them down in Jared Allen. So they have a lot of length. They have a lot of mobility. They have a lot of scoring, especially on the perimeter. And Jalen Tyson has been a good find for them, being able to defend and hit threes and score, at the basket. And I'm looking at this Cleveland team. They have a lot of good pieces. They're doing a lot of things right now. And they just fit the guard because we know how explosive and how good Donovan Mitchell is offensively. They can get hot, and they can also make the tough ones too, because Harden can make some hard shots look easy sometimes, even now. And, now they're just trying to build their chemistry up and play the best basketball that they can play before the playoffs start. And that's all that you try to do before it does, because you want to go into the postseason healthy, and you want to go into the postseason confident that you can beat anybody that's in front of you. And that's the mentality you have to have if you want to have postseason success. And I think they're doing that early since the trade ain't that old. And I like the fact that it's working out for them basketball wise. Toronto Raptors, they've been hanging around 35-25. That's a really good record. 58% win percentage, 10 games but back from Detroit, 16-15 at home, 19-10 on the road, 4-9 in the division, 27-15 in the conference. They won their last game. They're 6-4 in the last 10. They're a good team. I mean, they beat the teams that they should beat most of the time. That's why their record is really good. But you look at them in that top five and you say, can they win a title? I'd be shocked if they win 2 rounds. But I also look at it and say it's the East, so they have good wings. They have good scoring. That Jakob Poeltl is back. He's scoring in the paint. He can defend the rim a little bit and rebound. They have some guys that can get hot. They have some guys that's hard to stop. They have a lot of good pieces, and they have a lot of good guys, that they have gathered, and they just teaching them how to play together, how to play off of each other, which has been really well done by the coaching staff. But this is a team that you look at and you say they're going in the right direction talent wise. They just have to be great at more things, and if they do that, then they can take another step. I just don't think it's this year, but their experience and their chemistry levels are higher this year than last year, and that's mainly because of the implementation of Brandon Ingram being a guy that didn't play at all for them last year and playing a lot for them this year and giving them a lot of what they was missing. And it has helped them tremendously this year. And, now we have to see how they try to take a step in being a contender, because I feel like they're a good team, just not a great one, even though their record might say otherwise. But it's just their play and how they play against a better team that you worry about. And that's what you're going to do in the playoffs. And if you can't beat the 4th seed and you can't beat the 3 seed or the 2 seed, then you're not really a championship contender, which I think even the Raptor fans will say this year that they're not, but they're getting closer to it by being a 10 game above 500 team this season. So we'll see the moves that they make in the offseason or next year in general. And then the Philadelphia 76ers, they're just too banged up. Paul George's suspension didn't help. Joel Embiid being in and out the lineup doesn't help. Tyrese Maxey's just carrying the team to the best of his ability. VJ Edgecombe just shining out there as a rookie. Their bench is a little bit better. But like I said, we can't really take this team serious until they show that they can stay healthy when it matters. If they don't stay healthy when it matters, they're just going to be an average team. Like I said, they show how good they can be in spurts, but it's not enough to me to feel that they can win it all. You know what I mean? But the regular season, they're going to win games. They're going to play good enough to beat most teams. But at the end of the day, I just look at them as a good team too. But they're 33-26. They have a 55 win percentage. They're 11-5. 11 and a half games back from the Pistons. They're 16-15 at home, 17-11 on the road, 8-6 in the division, 21-19 in the conference. They won their last 3 games, but they only 5-5, and that's my point. The Orlando Magic, I love this team. It just no Franz is this year. He just been so banged up. And they have had guys in and out of the lineup, but they still find themselves with a decent record. 31-27 is the record. 53% from the win percentage. 13 games behind the Pistons. They're 7-10 at home, 13-15 on the road, 6-5 in the division, 19-18 in the conference. They lost their last game, and they're 6-4 in their last 10. And as long as they keep going, 6-4 or 5-5, they're going to be above 500 team at this point. And that's still a good season, but people thought that the Bane trade was going to make them really good, if in theory. And at the end of the day, it made them a good team, but they already was that. It didn't take them over the top because they haven't been healthy enough for us to see that version of the team, which sucks. But we also have been seeing Jalen Suggs also in and out of the lineup. Anthony Black still showing you that he has potential, but he's not the greatest offensive player still. So this team has some untested waters, and they have been a team that you want to watch and you want to see because they do have a lot of talent. Paulo hasn't been as dominant as you would like, but he's becoming a better playmaker, and he's still showing you that he can score and take over games. And you still have to like him being able to do that and having confidence that he can. But this is an underachieving team, and it's not because they haven't played well. It's just because they haven't had their best lineups out there yet compared to other teams. They fall in that Philly category where we have to wait until we see it. And then until we see it, we can't give them too much credit. The Miami Heat, they find themselves above 500 still. They're 32-29. They're 13 and a half games behind the Pistons for number one in the East. They're 18-11 at home, 14-18 on the road, 5-5 in the division, 16-18 in the conference. They won their last game and they're 5-5 in their last 10. They're just all right. They're all right. Bam is a good defender. Norman Powell's been good for them. Obviously, he's an all-star. Tyler Hero hasn't played enough, but he can be a guy that can take them to another level because he can handle the ball, he can shoot, he can score, he can float, he can finish around the basket. Khalil Ware showing you that he's still a solid rim protector in the space and big. Jaime Jaquez has been one of the best players off the bench the entire season. They have depth. They have Andrew Wiggins, who's showing you they can hit the three, still drive, and get to the basket. They have a lot of guys that's good. They just haven't really been great, defensively or offensively. To me, they've just been an average team, and a lot of it is because a lot of guys haven't been on the court for them enough for us to really see what they're really good at and what they're really about. And because of that, they've been piling up a lot of losses, and they've just been above being bad. And, we just don't know what this Heat team is really going to be in the future. Like, is it worth just being a playing team? It is worth just being a playoff team barely each and every season with these type of guys. Like, everybody's good, and that's about it. And that's the type of team that's been put together. I feel like the Raptors are just slightly better because they fit better and they just a little bit more healthier this year. But the Heat find themselves in a tough situation where how do we get a superstar? And even if we don't get them, how do we stay relevant in the Eastern Conference when other younger teams are getting better and they're going to have a chance to take one of our spots? And we might be the team looking on the outside, looking in next year. I feel like it's some teams that's at the bottom of the East that, if healthy next year, can really make it tough for the Heat to be a playoff team or even a playoff team um, next year. So we'll see what they do with their roster. We'll see how they continue to play before the season is over, and we'll see if they can stay healthier. So they can prove that they're still one of the forces in the East, which you won't say that much this year. Charlotte, they find themselves one game below 500, 30 and 31, 49 win percentage. They're 15 and a half games back from the Pistons, 13 and 16 at home, 17 and 15 on the road, 9 and 4 in the division, 19 and 21 in the conference. They won their last four, so they 7 and 3 in the last 10. They've been one of the hottest teams in the league. They're getting a lot of good matchups. They're playing against a lot of good teams that they can beat, and they have been getting it done. That's the hardest part about a young team is, can they play together? Can they defend? Can they execute when it matters? Can they trust each other when it matters instead of going hero ball? And they've been passing a lot of those tests. It's just they still need a little bit more depth, and they still need a little bit of more defense, and they still have to shoot the ball a lot better. They want to beat the better teams. But they're starting to get confidence. They're starting to enjoy the winning side of it. They're feeling like they one of the better teams, but they still have a lot more to do. You know what I mean? And the season still has 20 plus games for every team, so they can get even further up this list in the Eastern Conference if they continue to play the way that they've been playing. They're an unknown team though. They looking like they already have a lot of things going in their favor, but we also have to see more from them to really judge them and really see what they're going to be about. But I think that they can still improve their roster. I feel like they can still get better. It's another level to them, just like the Heat, that we just haven't seen enough of yet. So we'll see what the Hornets in their season like, and we'll see how the next couple weeks go for them and see if they can continue to win. The Atlanta Hawks, they find themselves with the same record as the Hornets, but they also have done it a different way. They have made some moves with their roster. They have changed, a lot of things, whether that's no Porzingis and no Trae Young, or the fact that they're still winning games enough to be a team that can possibly make the playoffs. It's been a long season for them. It's been a tough season for them, a lot of back and forth with their record, and their consistency hasn't been there enough. And their lineup just doesn't scare you either. If you're an opposition, you feel like if you're going against the Hawks, you can beat them, you can score them, you can have a lot of assists against them. And they're still trying to figure out how a team around Jalen Johnson looks and how to win with him as their star and their franchise player. And we'll see how that goes. They're 13 and 16 at home. They're 17 and 15 on the road, 7 and 6 in the division, 17 and 21 in the conference. They won their last three, and they 6 and 4 in the last 10. The Milwaukee Bucks are still winning games. They have a chance still to make the playoffs, but they have to continue to win, and they're going to need Giannis to come back to give them a better chance of winning. Other than that, they've been holding it down. They've been winning games that they should have won or they shouldn't. They don't have a team that you feel that you should feel that you can beat them. You should feel that you can outplay them, but they still have a lot of fight in them. They still have a lot of creativity and how to get things done, and they're still playing together. So as long as you're going out there and you feel that you can win, you feel like you can compete, which most pros do, you just go out there and give your best and live with the result. And the Bucks have been living by that, this entire season. But 26 and 32 for them, 44 win percentage, 18 games behind the Pistons for the number one seed. They're 14 and 14 at home, 12 and 18 on the road, 8 and 4 in the division, 19 and 20 in the conference. They lost their last game and they still 7 and 3 in the last 10. They just haven't been making no excuses. They've been holding each other accountable. They've been playing well together. They're not really tanking, and they're just going out there putting their best foot forward, and that's all that they can do with what they have. And they make it really best what would do, and that's all you can really try to do in the NBA and any professional sport. And I like the fact that they're still competing. The Bulls are on the opposite end of that. They're a team that said we're just gonna give up on this season, even though we won a lot of games, and just try to tank for the rest of it. 24-36 is their record. It's 400 win percentage. Um, they're 21 games behind the Pistons for the number one seed. They're 15-17 at home, 9-19 on the road, 3-10 in the division, 16-26 in the conference. They lost their last 11. They're 0-10 in their last 11. Obviously, this has been a disaster, but talk about a team that was almost borderline playoff to a team that has become one of the worst teams, it seemed like overnight. And this is what they're trying to do. They're trying to show you that it does matter, if you have a lot of talent or you don't. And they looking at it like we're not going to get as far as we think that we will if we continue to chase mediocrity. So we're just going to blow that whole movement up. We're going to get rid of Kobe White. We're going to get rid of Vucevic. Try out some guys that we like or we want to see what they can do in our franchise, or we get to know them a little bit better because they're on our team and on our roster. And we're just going to figure out how to rebuild and retool a little bit and go in a different direction and try to win in the future and not right now. That's the decision that the Bulls have made, and the losses have come with it. And they just have to go all in on just losing games to try to get the best pick that they can to try to change their franchise back to being a possible championship contender with some young talent that can develop into stars or superstars in the future. The Washington Wizards, they're tanking, so I'm not gonna say much about them either. They're 16-43. No AD, is no Trae Young, Sar out, so they're really saying the season is over for us. We're gonna throw in the white flag, and we're just gonna try to find a way to add another great piece to all our young talent that we have already on our roster. They're 28.5 games behind the Pistons. They're 11-20 at home. They're 5-23 on the road, 2-9 in the division, 11-27 in the conference. They also lost their last four and was 3-7 in their last 10 and still are. The Brooklyn Nets, we know that they're done for the year. Michael Porter is the only guy that you really want to see. The other guys are still trying to figure out what they are and what they're going to try to be in the NBA and see what works, with Michael Porter. I know you probably don't feel that Michael Porter is the number one. Most people don't. I know you don't feel like he's going to be a championship type of guy, even though he won one in a supporting role. But you still need talent. You need guys that can handle the ball and shoot and create opportunities. And at least he does that. But he needs a lot more shooting, a lot more guys that can do more on the offensive end. And even if they trade him to get more pieces, well, they still can benefit off of that. We'll see if they make that decision in the off season. They're 15-44, 25 win percentage, 29.5 games back from the Pistons. They're 8-21 at home, 7-23 on the road, 3-10 in the division, 11-25 in the conference. They're a team that lost 7 in a row in their last 10, and they're 2-8 in their last 10. And then the Indiana Pacers, they've been the worst team in the East. It's just been a tough season to watch for them. They can't win a game. They give it all they got. They try. They just can't win it. They just can't beat anybody. And they lost their last 5. They're 2-8 in their last 10. 15-45, 25 win percentage, 30 games back from the Pistons. They're 10-21 at home. They're 5-24 on the road, 3-9 in the division, 11-30 in the conference, and it's just been a terrible season for them. Frustrating, but they're staying positive. They're still going out there and playing some decent basketball, even though it don't look like it, since they're losing the majority of their games. But they're still a fun, interesting team to watch. If you like basketball and you like high-level basketball, they still try to compete to the best of their ability. They just don't have enough to win games at a consistent level. which is obvious, but that's how their season has went. Just having a nightmare season. Um, and then the Thunder, they find themselves still number one in the Western Conference. They're 46-15. They have a 75 win percentage. They're 25-6 at home, 21-8 on the road, 9-3 in the division, 33-9 in the conference. They won their last game and they're 6-4 in their last 10. You look at it and say, well, they still number one. They had a lot of injuries. They have a lot of their best players out. Even Shea missed some time, and they're still at the top of the West. You know, their lead has diminished, but at the end of the day, they're still getting it done. They're still figuring out how to win, even after they started 24-1. They still have a above 500 record, even though they have a whole lot more losses this year than last year. You know, they have a better record last year than this one. We don't know how this year is going to end. We don't know how it's going to play out. But they have still been a fun team to watch. They have been a tough team still to beat. And you just want to see them more healthier to see what type of team they're going to be before the playoffs start. But that's not a guarantee no more. You know, the Thunder have really had some bad injury luck. And they haven't really been playing their best basketball because they haven't had their best players enough. But all the other teams saying, boo-hoo, we have had injuries. We have had struggles too. And that's where you say, well, y'all have had it too, but we still on the top. And we're handling our business for the what we have. And they do have a lot of talent. But at the same time, you do have to say the Thunder, they're still good. They're still good. They're still figuring it out. They're still getting it done. So, you know, to have 46 wins already is a tough thing to do, especially because you only have 15 losses, showing that not too many teams have been able to beat them still with all the problems that they've been having with their season. The Spurs are really good, 43-16, 72 win percentage. They're only 2 games behind the Thunder. 21-6 for them, 21-10 on the road, 21-6 at home, 10-3 in the division, 26-13 in the conference. They won their last 11 in a row, and that's tough to do. But they showing you that they have really found their groove, and they're really firing on all cylinders. Wemby is finishing in the paint more. He's taking more of the physicality. He hasn't been as dominant as he has shown throughout his career. But his teammates saying, we got your back. We're good. We can defend. We can communicate. We can make things easier on you. And we're a team that is well balanced. It's not too much we can't do. It's not too much things we're not great at. And that's a good place to be when most of your teammates is below 27. And that just show you the potential and the upside that the Spurs have. The problem is a lot of young teams that's feeling the same, but the Spurs are doing a little bit better than them on both ends of the court, or a lot more depending on the team. So it's just showing you that they're getting closer and closer to being a team that can win a championship. And that's their goal, and that's what they play for. And we'll see how they end the season and how they playoffs start for them. Houston Rockets, man, 37-22, 62 win percentage, 8 games behind the Thunder. They're 20-7 at home, 17-15 on the road, 6-10, 6-5 in the division, 21-16 in the conference. They lost their last game. They're 6-4 in their last 10. They still been getting it done. Like no Fred VanVleet, no Steven Adams. They just integrating Kevin Durant in for the first season. They're having a really, really good year. For the fact that they had to lose a lot and still find a way to get it done with new pieces. So I like the fact that the Rockets have, went out there and played some solid basketball this year. A lot of people don't look at them as contenders, but when you look at their record, it's still impressive. The fact that they was able to win as many games as they have, and they're still on pace for 50 wins, and that's a successful season for a team like them. So we'll see if they can continue to grow and continue to try to find a way to get it done and, figure out how to be a good two-way team before the season is over and see if they can finish as a top 5 team in the West. That should be their goal. And going into the playoffs, they should be feeling good right now about how they're playing and how they're getting it done. The Denver Nuggets, they're 37-23, 8.5 games behind the Thunder for number one. They're 16-11 at home, 21-12 on the road, 5-3 in the division, 21-12 in the conference. They lost their last game and was 4-6 in their last 10. They haven't been getting it done the way that they usually do. Jokic has came back from the injury, still putting up numbers, but the wins haven't really been coming with them. Jamal Murray carried the team and they was winning games without Jokic, and you thought that when Jokic come back they'd go on a winning streak, and they really haven't been able to do that, showing you how hard and how tough it is to win basketball games in the NBA. Even a team with one of the best players ever are not really getting it done lately. And it sucks for them, but they show that we don't have a lot. Aaron Gordon's been out and all these guys been out for us. We haven't had our starting lineup enough this year, and we're still on pace for 50. So their season is going to be something like, as long as we're healthy when the playoffs come around, we'll just take the fact that we made it. We don't really fear anybody that in the Western Conference when we're healthy. So we're going to just go for health over just trying to go out there and win a bunch of games. They definitely going to be a playoff team. They're definitely going to be a tough out, but that's the way they just have to look at it as a veteran team. We don't fear nobody. We can play with anybody when we're fully healthy, and we just have to believe in that mentality just to be able to take this season with a grain of salt, since it's not going the way that we really wanted it to go, and it hasn't really went the way that we wanted it to go. We still, are very confident in our talent and our coaching staff and in our belief that we can still get it done. Minnesota Timberwolves, they're 37-23 also. So they have a 61 percentage win wise. They're 8.5 games behind the Thunder too, but they're 20-11 at home. They're 17-12 on the road, 7-5 in the division, and 22-17 in the conference. They also won their last two and went 6-4 in their last 10. So I like what they've been doing. They rely a lot on Anthony Edwards to create buckets. Gobert defense is back. His rebounding is back. His activity is back. Randall hasn't been as great as you want him to be, but they're still figuring out ways to win games. Jaden McDaniels has been stepping up a little bit more and doing more, especially on the offensive end. And then you look at the rest of the roster. They made some moves to try to find a way to give them more balance when it comes to offense and defense. And then they also try to add a little bit of depth. So, when you have a team like this, it's just championship or bust. We already got to the conference finals. That's no longer an accomplishment since we have done it back to back. Now we have to try to have our eyesight on something bigger, and that's getting to the NBA finals and getting through the West. And that's the only thing that matters for them, even next year. Is like, if you have Anthony Edwards and this type of roster, that should be your goal. If you're not achieving that, you failed. You should only be trying to get further. You should only be trying to do better, since you already proved that you're one of the best teams in the Western Conference the last couple of years. And that's how they should feel, and that's the way they should look at it. And we'll see if they can continue to win and, continue to go up the ranking in the Western Conference when it comes to record. The Los Angeles Lakers, they're 35-24, 11 games above 500, 59 win percentage. They 10 games behind the Thunder for the number one record. They're 16-12 at home, 19-12 on the road, 7-7 in the division, 24-15 in the conference. They won their last game and they're 5-5 in their last 10. They just get it done because LeBron, Luka, and Austin Reeves is just tough covers. They have enough players that can hurt you if you double team or you try to guard them. They're too hard to stop one-on-one. And then they just good guys that have high IQs and good feel and understanding how to play the game the right way. And even though their defense isn't that great, and we know it, even though they haven't had the best season ever, they still find themselves as one of the best teams record-wise in the Western Conference. They still find themselves as a team that we still haven't seen a lot of with the newer additions, with their best players. And you look at it and say, well, they're still where they need to be, which is one of the top teams in the Western Conference. And as long as they're in that conversation and as long as they're showing and proving that, we have to respect them a little bit, even if we feel that we can beat them. Most teams in the West feel that way, and most teams in the West has shown that. but the Lakers feel the same. We finally getting our team where we want it to be. We're finally starting to show what we can do, and we feel like we can play better before the season is over. So we'll see if they do, and we'll see if they can. The Phoenix Suns, 34-26, they have had a lot of injuries too. No Dylan Brooks, no Devin Booker, but they still find themselves in a potential playoff slot in the Western Conference. Um, they're 34-26, 56 win percentage, 11 and a half games behind the Thunder, 20-12 at home, 14-14 on the road, 9-6 in the division, 23-18 in the conference. They won their last game. They're 4-6 though in their last 10. At this point, they just should be happy that they did well this year. Nobody thought the Suns would be that great. Nobody thought the Suns would be that good. Even with all the problems that they've been having with their roster and still trying to play good basketball, it's just good enough that they have been able to accomplish that. No matter who they throw out there, they figure out a way to get it done or play at a high level. And most people didn't think the Suns were going to be that good, and they have been for basically the entire season. So, they overachieving right now, which isn't anything you would be mad about if you're a Suns fan or a player on the Suns or the organization in general. You just feel like we put together a good roster. We feel good about our chances of winning, and we're just going to prove everybody wrong. And if they felt that way, they proved that. They have shown that. But they're far away from being a team that can win it all. And you do wonder, like, what more can they do to get better at this point, and what more can they do to be a team that's really challenging again to win it all. So we have to see how their season ends, and we have to see how the play-in possibly can go. They do still have a chance to be top 6 by the end of the year because of their record, but they also look like a team that no matter who they play, that's a team you want to go against. Even though the Suns been good and they've been beating people, I would say I want to go against the Suns rather than the Lakers or the Timberwolves. And if I can't go against the Suns, I want the Warriors. That's the way you would look at it if you're in the Western Conference, if you're San Antonio, or if you're one of those teams that's still close enough to get passed up by the Suns or the Warriors. But the Warriors, they're further back now. They're 31-29. They have a 51 win percentage. They're 14.5 games back from the Thunder. They're 19-12 at home, 12-17 on the road, 6-6 in the 6-5 in the division, 21-18 in the conference. They lost their last game, and they're also 4-6 in the last 10. I mean, no Steph, so we don't really have nothing to judge them on. They need to be healthier. They need to have their best player on the court. He's not ready to go. He's not really to help them right now, and they're still going out there winning games. They're losing more than they're winning, but you don't want to be too low. You want to still be in one of those 8 or 7 spots, so that way you can win one game and keep your spot and still try to compete at the playoff level. But they're getting closer and closer to these other teams that's been trying to catch up with them, and these teams have also got healthier. We'll see if they stay. So the Warriors in a tough situation where we're not good enough to lose, and we're still good enough to make the playoffs, and we have to still show Steph that we want to win, and we're trying to do whatever we can to win so he can stay and be happy with us. And that's the situation that they're in. And then the Portland Trailblazers, 29-32 for them, 47 win percentage. They have a good enough record considering all the injuries that they faced. And then they're 17 games behind the Thunder for the number 1 spot. They're 16-15 at home, 13-17 on the road, 5-7 in the division, 22-18 in the conference. They lost their last game, but they're 6-4, which is above 500 in their last 10. The question for them is, can they finish above 500? Can they actually get to 500? And that's it, because like I said, they have had a lot of chaos going around with this team, and that's the coaching problems and the injuries that they have had, and all of those things mixed together, and they still found a way to compete at a high level and win basketball games, and they have done it basically all season. It's just they haven't done it at a high enough level to where you feel that you'll be scared of them, or you feel that you cannot beat them, and that's been the problem with the Blazers. They've been mediocre. And we we still want to see how good they can be at full strength. I still want to see if they can get to that point before the playoffs start. And I want to see, if they can still try to go all in on trying to win as many games as they can and not go the tanking route. And it seems like they're still going all in for that. And they don't really want to be a team that's trying to just get young talent and keep throwing it together, They have enough defenders. They have enough scoring. They have a decent coach in Tiago Splitter that's been sticking with these guys and believing in these guys. And we'll see how that goes for them for the rest of the season. And then the Clippers, they are a weird team right now. They traded James Harden. They got Darius Garland. He's been really not playing that much this season. Benedict Mathurin is a player that has potential to be an all-star. We have to see if he can actually get better shot selection and not shots down at a more efficient rate. And then Kawhi Leonard has become one of the best players again because he's healthy. And he has really been carrying the team offensively and really been dominant and really been showing that he's still a great two-way player. But they still find themselves 27-31, which is a bad record and a significantly a below 500 record. And they had games where if they won them, they could have been 500 to this point. But they keep taking a step forward and a step backwards over and over again this whole entire season. And they still have a chance to make the playoffs, which is the craziest part about it all. But they have a 46 win percentage. They 17 and a half games behind the Thunder, 14-13 at home, 13-18 on the road, 7-5 in the division, 17-18 and 18 in the conference. They lost their last three, which is something they never wanted to do and shouldn't have done. But they played the best they could, and it just wasn't enough. And they also 4-6 in their last 10, which is not the thing you want to see, considering that you want to be a playoff team and you wanted to move up and you want to be above 500. But they haven't been able to get there yet, even though their season is one that they're not trying to waste. They're not trying to tank. They're still trying to win games and still trying to find a way with their new guys that they're trying to find a way to implement with Kawhi Leonard. And we'll see if these new guys can fit and be the future of their franchise too, while still trying to be competitive this year. Memphis Grizzlies 22-36. They have a 37 win percentage. They're 22 and a half games behind the Thunder. 11-17 at home. 10-18 on the road. 6-6 in the division. 18-23 in the conference. They won their last game, but they're 3-7 in their last 10. I mean, they have a lot of wings, and they have some guys that like Zach Edey and stuff like that hasn't played enough. So they're just seeing what their young talent can do. They're seeing what their young talent is working on and trying to do it on an NBA court against some NBA competition. So not too much to take away from the Grizzlies besides they're going into a rebuilding situation. Let's get rid of Desmond Bane in the summer. Let's get rid of Jaren Jackson during the season. And we can figure out what we're going to do with Ja Morant in the offseason. So, they're in a rebuilding, they're rebranding, they're refixing up what they're about and what they want to do and how they want to build this team. And they're just letting the guys that they like and trying to see who they do like play and get on the court and see what they can be and what they can do. And then they just go further from there. Dallas, no Cooper. And they got rid of Anthony Davis since the last update of the rundown. And Kyrie decided to not play at all this season, and that means they're tanking. We can't win, so we don't want to win, and we're happy not winning, so let's just figure out a way to get the best talent we can by doing it in the draft. But they're 21-38, and have a 35 win percentage. They're 24 games behind the Thunder. They're 14-18 at home, 7-19 on the road, 3-10 in the division. 11-28 in the conference. They lost their last two, and they're 2-8 in their last 10. So, they're still looking at it like we tried. Anthony Davis couldn't stay healthy. Let's get what we can get for him while he's still one of the best players in the league. Kyrie, we can't trade him because the trade deadline is over. Plus, he didn't even show what he's going to be and what he's going to do since he missed all of the season, even up to the trade deadline. So he's at a low value right now. And even if he plays a little bit next season, he might not be on a roster. And even if he is, we still might want a younger player for that reason because he's older. So, he's in his 30s. He's still a player that can possibly work his way back into being a decent player. But at the same time, this is Cooper time. This is what they're going to try to build around. This is what they need to focus on and go in that direction as much as they can. Wise early. You want to show Cooper that you believe in him and you feel like he can be the guy that gets you to the promised land, and we'll see if he can. New Orleans Pelicans, they're 19 and 42, 31 win percentage, 27 games behind the Thunder, 11 and 21 at home, 8 and 21 on the road, 6 and 7 in the division, 12 and 26 in the conference. They have won their last four, and they're 6 and 4 in the last 10. They put Fears on the bench. They put Queen on the bench. Poole is on the bench, and they said we're going to see what Zion can do. Sadiq Bey has been hot for them. They put DeAndre Jordan up out of nowhere, and he's been in the starting lineup too. I don't know why they're trying to win. I don't know why they're focusing on trying to put the best lineup that they can out there because, their season been over. Their season has been done. I'm not saying I like tanking. I'm not saying they should tank, but I thought they'd been doing that all season. I'm surprised that they won four in a row because they haven't been doing really much but losing this year. And I know that the players are trying to compete. They're still trying to show that they have some type of pride left in them. They're not going to let people just blow them out and outplay them and just embarrass them. So, it makes sense from the player's perspective. And even the coach is going to look at it like it makes me look bad because we done lost a lot this year. But they have done it so much that it's kind of shocking that they actually want to win when they're so close to the season being over. And then the Jazz, they have 18 wins and 42 losses. They season been over too, but they still have to play the games anyway because it's part of their job is the way they have to look at it. 30 win percentage for them, 27 and a half games behind the Thunder, 11 and 20 at home, 7 and 22 on the road, 1 and 9 in the division, 10 and 29 in the conference. They lost their last five and it's 3 and 7 in the last 10. They letting a lot of their young guys play, getting a lot of reps, getting a lot of chances to show, like practice this, work on this, try to do it at the NBA level on the court against the best competition in the world. And they have shown results that a lot of their young guys can play with each other. A lot of their young guys are willing to accept, their roles, and a lot of the young guys are showing that we can do more. We can play at a higher level. We just have to try it out and see if it works. And that's what you want to see at this point of the season for these type of teams is we want to use our young players as much as we can to develop them and to help them grow and help them learn. And it's mainly because we lost so much. So we just use this as a development stage for them. And then the Sacramento Kings, they had a lot of veterans, but Sabonis went for surgery. Zach LaVine went for surgery. And at that point, they're saying we're done with our season. We're done trying to win. We'll just focus on next season. And that's how the Jazz feel. That's how the Mavericks feel. That's how the Grizzlies feel. The only difference is the Kings have a worse record than all of those teams. And we'll see if that helped them in the draft. But they're 14 and 47 with the losses and the wins. They also have a 23 win percentage. They're 32 games behind the Thunder. They're 9 and 20 at home. They're 5 and 27 on the road. They're 2 and 8 in the division. They're 10 and 31 in the conference. They won their last game and they're 2 and 8 in their last 10. So, not a surprise that the Kings have been bad. I'm surprised that their record is as bad as it is. When I seen their roster and I seen what they was coming in with, I didn't think they only win 14 games. I don't think none of us would have gave that roster coming into this season 14 games at this point of the season, but that's the reality of the situation. They have been bad defensively. They have stayed in games, but they haven't been able to close them. And even when their best players was out, that just made them lose even more. Their season was just a nightmare. It was just terrible. It's like the Pacers, man. You come in feeling like we got a shot, we got a chance to be decent, and then you have a season where you can't even win 20 games. Even though they should be able to do that, that's the reality of like when are y'all going to at least get 20 games? Like that's how terrible they have been in the NBA this year. But it sucks, and you don't want to face it. You don't want to be on a team like this. If you're a veteran and if you have any type of confidence in your game. You're gonna wonder what went wrong, what really happened, why we can't win. You keep motivating yourself. You keep trying to talk up your teammates. You don't want them to get depressed. You don't want them to feel like they suck. You don't want them to feel bad about how they're playing. And then the losses just keep on coming and they just keep on happening. And you just realize we suck. And no matter what we have done, they just haven't worked out for us. So this season is over for them. They're terrible, and we'll see who's going to finish with the worst record. We're going to see how this season ends up for these next couple weeks. And at the end of the day, we'll see how the lottery odds and stuff go for a lot of these teams too. But they're still going out there competing and doing doing whatever they can with the talent that they have, and it just haven't been enough to win games though. And I don't think they should care too much at this point, because the more you get beat, the more you start realizing what more can we do. This is what we have. This is what we're gonna play with, and I'm just gonna try to go out there and do what I can and see what my teammates gonna do. And they just been losing too much throughout this entire season, and it gets to a point where you just say, "Then get off." And it can be that way, going against the best players in the world every night can be that way. It can be very humbling. And, this season is going to be proof of that for the Kings fans and the Kings players and their organization. They came in with the right mentality when they built their roster, but it just haven't given them the results that they feel that they should have had, and it has just been just that bad for them. But other than that, thank y'all for watching. Thank y'all for checking out the channel. Comment, like, subscribe, share. Hit that notification, bell to be able to get that analysis when it first come out. Other than that, thank y'all for checking out the channel. Y'all stay blessed up. Y'all stay good. Peace. And I'll see y'all later with more analysis, hopefully today, because there's a lot of games on today. I'm going to try to watch as much as I can and tell y'all how I feel about the games. Other than that, peace.